Hi, this is Beautiful Thrift Homemaking, and I'm Linda. We're reading through a 1917 cookbook that's also an instructional novel about homemaking. We're following the newlywed Bettina in her first year of marriage and her work in her kitchen. We have in this cookbook many chapters, and the novel part is quite delightful. We're in chapters 37 and 38 today. Chapter 37, The Big Secret. Come in, Alice. Now, do say that you'll stay to dinner, for we can talk afterward. Well, if you'll take me out into the kitchen where you are working, you see, I have all this to learn, and I'm depending on you to help me. Of course I'll help, Alice, but you are so clever about anything that you care to do that I know you'll soon outstrip your teacher. Tell me first, does anyone know the big secret yet? Not a soul but Bettina, Bob, and my family. That is what I came to talk about. Oh, Alice, I'd love to be the one to give the announcement luncheon, or the breakfast, or whatever you prefer to have. Would you do it, really? Bettina, I've been longing to have you offer, but it is work and trouble, and I didn't want to suggest it. Why, Alice, I just enjoy that kind of work. I'd be flattered to be allowed to have it here. Of course, you know that I can't do anything very elaborate or expensive, but I'm sure that between us, we can think up just the prettiest, cleverest way of telling it that any prospective bride ever had. Bettina, my faith is in you. When do you plan to be married? Late in October or early November, I think, and I'd prefer not to have it announced for a month. You see, I don't want to allow time for too many festivities in between. Oh, Alice, if you take my advice, you won't have any showers or parties at all. I know you. If you do allow it, you'll have more excitement than any bride in this town. Well, Harry advises me not to, but oh, Betty, you know how it is. I know so many people, and I do like fun. And then Mother likes to think of me as the center of things. She's afraid that when I am married to Harry, I'll become as quiet as he is. And then, too, I honestly don't think she'll feel that I was really married without it. You know, Sister Lillian had lots of excitement and more parties crowded into a day than, yes, and she was so tired that she nearly fainted when she stood up to be married. That's true, but she liked the fun anyhow. She says that a girl can have that kind of fun only once, and she's silly to deny herself. Well, I'll have a whole month to think it over in. I've been sitting here all this time, Bettina, trying to decide what it is that you are making. Those croquettes, I mean. They are potato and green corn croquettes, and Bob is very fond of them. I made them because I happened to have some leftover corn. Until I learned this recipe, I didn't know what to do with the ears of cooked green corn that were left. And what is the meat dish? Well, that is made of leftovers too, but I think you'll like it. Creole lamb, it is called. It is made of a little cold cooked lamb that was left from last night's dinner. The rhubarb sauce that I am serving with the dinner was our dessert last night, but I do have a very good new dessert. New or not, the dinner does sound good. There is Bob now, and I'm so glad, for I confess that my appetite is even larger than usual. The menu that night was as follows: Creole lamb, potato and green corn croquettes, rhubarb sauce, bread, butter, head lettuce, French dressing, lemon pie, and cheese. And in this book we have the recipes for the Creole lamb and the potato and green corn croquettes. All right, now we'll read chapter 38 before we do the discussion. After the circus. There is nothing so exciting as a circus, said Ruth, but oh, how comfortable and peaceful it seems to get away at last from the crowds and the noise. How quiet and cool this porch is, Bettina. In 2 minutes I'll get up and help you with dinner, but you made a mistake to put such a comfortable chair here in this particular spot. Ruth, stay just where you are. This meal is supper and dinner, and it will be ready in the shortest possible time. Where are the men? Going over the plans of our house, I suppose. Fred has worn them almost in pieces by exhibiting them so often. There seem to be a great many details to settle at the last minute. As for me, I'm perfectly satisfied, for I'm going to have a kitchen exactly like yours. Bettina, what lovely nasturtiums, and how delicious that cold sliced ham looks, with more nasturtiums to garnish it. Yes, and I have nasturtium leaves lining the salad bowl. And see, I'll put one large flower on each plate. Don't nasturtiums always seem cool and appetizing? The whole supper looks that way. Well, circus day is almost invariably warm, and people are tired when they come home, so I planned to have a cold and simple meal. Isn't boiled ham hard to prepare? Oh, no, indeed. Nothing could be simpler. I bought a half of a ham. I like a piece cut from the large end, and I soaked it for an hour in cold water. Then I brought it to a boil in fresh cold water and a little vinegar, and transferred it to the fireless cooker for 5 hours. Then I baked it for an hour in the cooker, having first trimmed it and covered it with brown sugar and almost as many cloves as I could stick into it. It is very tender and good, I think. One of the best of my fireless cooker recipes. I am planning to have a fireless cooker when I keep house. That is fine, Ruth. You have no idea how they save both gas and worry. Someday I'll give you all of my best fireless recipes. I use my cooker a great deal. For instance, this brown bread was steamed in the cooker. A fireless is invaluable for steaming. I usually plan to have Boston brown bread, tuna or salmon loaf, and a pudding all steaming in the large compartment at once. Then I've learned to bake beautiful beans in the cooker. I wonder what our grandmothers think of Boston baked beans and Boston brown bread, all made in the fireless. I'm sure I could prove to any of them that my way is just as good, besides being much cooler and more economical. Well, shall we call Fred and Bob? The circus day supper consisted of cold sliced ham, Boston brown bread, butter, blackberries, cream, spiced cake, iced tea, and sliced lemon. And in our book, we have the recipe for the spiced cake and the sea sugar icing. All right. I hope you enjoyed the reading of these 2 chapters. And join me in just a split second, and we'll do the discussion of them. Thank you. All right, so here we are to discuss chapters 37 and 38. We're going to have a wedding engagement announcement and a trip home from the circus. So first of all, chapter 37, Alice is now engaged to Harry, who is also known as Mr. Harrison, and she has told her family and Bettina and Bob, but not her larger circle of friends yet. So she's over there at Bettina's, and she's discussing how to tell her friends and what kind of party they should have to reveal the good news, right? So Bettina assures her that she will help her, that she would also like to host the party at her own home, and that she would find the prettiest, cleverest way of telling it. And that reminds me of what some people do now with these reveal parties for when babies are going to be born and they're going to reveal the gender of the baby. They come up with all sorts of clever things these days, don't they? That wasn't a thing back when I was having a baby, but it's so fun for couples to do that. And here we have the same kind of idea with a announcement of an engagement. So Bettina, in the meantime, was also making her own dinner for her and Bob, and she invites Alice to join them for dinner because she's hospitable. We know that about her. Now, I'll look at the recipe for the croquettes because I thought that was something I could go over with you. I don't really know what green corn is. If anybody does, maybe they can tell me down in the comments. Potato and green corn croquettes. And Bettina had told us that she had this green corn left over. She said that I didn't know what to do with the ears of cooked green corn that were left from another meal until she found this recipe. So remember, she does save her recipes, usually on little index cards and in a file box of some sort. So she has those to be handy for her to use, to refer to. Potato and green corn croquettes, 3 portions. Oh, that's perfect since it's Bob, Bettina, and Alice. All right, so 1 cup of hot mashed potatoes, 1 cup of green corn pulp, cooked with a tablespoon of butter, 1/2 a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 a teaspoon of pepper, and 1 egg yolk. Here are the instructions for the croquettes. Mix all ingredients together thoroughly. Shape into cylindrical form, roll in breadcrumbs, dip in beaten egg. Oh, I noticed the breadcrumbs weren't listed in the ingredients. So you also need breadcrumbs. So you're going to, I'm going to start that again. Shape into cylindrical form, cylinders. Roll in breadcrumbs, dip in beaten egg, roll again in crumbs, deep fry. The egg yolks for croquettes may have a tablespoon of water added for each yolk. The whites, as well as the yolks, may be used for covering the croquettes. To get the corn pulp, cut the kernels lengthwise of the rows and press out the pulp with the back of the knife. This recipe is good for leftover corn. So let me know if you've ever had anything like that, or ever processed corn in that way, or if you know what green corn is. And then also on this day, she served lamb, which she calls Creole lamb. And I think it's because of the combination of ingredients, which includes green peppers, onion, tomato pulp, lemon juice, and horseradish, and served on 3 pieces of toast cut into strips. And that's for the 3 portions. So each person's going to get a piece of toast that's cut into strips, and they're going to get this meat mixture using her leftover lamb. The lamb is cooked and cut into cubes, and it's cold. When it is stirred in, though, to the other ingredients. So here she is making use of her leftovers, which of course is something that we're learning from her. That's a really economical thing to do, and a wise thing to do is to use your leftovers. And that's she's reinventing them so they don't look the same each night, so that Bob doesn't get bored with her meals, and neither does she. And she gets to use her creativity, which is pretty fun. Well, let me see what else I have on my notes here for you. I'm going to go on to chapter 38, the circus. All right, so a circus came to town for the summer, and Fred and Ruth went with Bob and Bettina. And they came back to Bettina's home, and Fred and Bob are looking over some house plans because their friends, Ruth and Fred, are going to build a new home. And Ruth says she wants a kitchen just like Bettina's, of course. And then she comments on the nasturtiums. Ruth likes the look of the nasturtiums that Bettina has added to the salad. She has lined the salad bowl with nasturtium leaves, which you might remember are kind of a roundish leaf, about that size. And so she's put them on the sides of the bowl, and then she's put some nasturtium flowers in the salad, one for everyone for a decoration. And also they are edible, and remember they have a very peppery flavor. I showed you some pictures of nasturtiums in another video. She also is making use of ham in this in this menu, and she is using her fireless cooker. Now, if you go back to chapter 7, way back to chapter 7, I talked about the fireless cooker. I looked more information up about that and shared it with you. I found out that it was also sometimes called a hay box, that it's an insulated, warm environment. Food was cooked to boil or meat to 145 to 165 degrees internal temperature first, then transferred to the fireless cooker, sealed up, and left in there for several hours. This method was useful for tenderizing tougher cuts of meat or for cooking casseroles. It was also used for steaming, and in this case, Bettina's mentioning again Boston brown bread, which she had steamed in her fireless cooker. Bettina's fireless cooker, we later learn, has 2 discs that she preheats and places over and under the cooking dish. So those are the things that we kind of know about the fireless cooker. It's kind of the predecessor for a crock pot or even your Instant Pot. Okay, now she's cooking the ham, and thankfully we usually buy cooked hams these days. And if you are blessed to have someone who likes to do smoking at home, then you might have had a home smoked ham, which is very, very tasty. But Bettina is going to have to cook her ham for at least 6 hours. It's a very long process. And I am going to have a little surprise for you today because I finally made some time to make a couple recipes from this book. Oh my goodness, and I was just going to get a sip of my drink and I left it in the kitchen. I hope you are staying hydrated. I've got 2 things going in there. I've got an iced green tea with passion fruit, and I also made some iced decaf coffee, and I put cashew milk in that. All right, I am going to take you back to chapter 21 and show you the applesauce cake, which I followed precisely, other than afterwards I realized she said to chop the raisins, and I didn't chop my raisins up, but I did make the recipe as it is given in the cookbook. So here's what it looked like on the top. She asked for us to, I'm going to kind of cover myself with it. So she asked for us to use a sifter and put granulated sugar on the top. And that made a nice crunchy top to it. Doesn't that look good there? And then I'll try to turn it and you can kind of see the inside of the cake. Sorry, I'm going to use my fingers just so you can see it. You can see there's a raisin or a date there. Yeah. Yeah, and you can see some more. So I used chopped pecans, chopped dates, and some fresh, nice, soft raisins that I had just purchased. So the applesauce cake we talked about, I found a recipe at the Lifeboat Museum in Oregon this summer on my vacation, and it was on display in the museum as one of the cooks for this lifeguard station had a recipe for applesauce cake, and I took a picture and I shared that with you on the end of that video that I made because it was almost exactly like the recipe here. So I did follow the recipe, and the cake is rather sweet, very much sweet. I would like personally for it to be less sweet, but I did have a taste of it, and yeah, it has 1 cup of sugar. It was made in an 8-inch square pan, and it has 1 cup of sugar, so that's quite a bit. Plus it has those sweet fruits, the raisins, the dates. It also had the 1 cup of applesauce, fresh applesauce. I literally went out to my apple tree and picked some Granny Smith apples and made some applesauce so I could use it in this recipe. The flavor that came through was the cloves and the cinnamon. Mostly the cloves. It really came through. That half a teaspoon really came through in flavoring this cake. So it wasn't so much like a spice cake flavor, but definitely a warm, you had you had that flavor of cloves, which was really nice. It's a really warm, see, it reminded me of something you'd want to have in the fall rather than the summer. All right, so that was fun to make. And then I also made a savory recipe to go with my lunch today from chapter 26, and it was the apple, celery, and green pepper salad. And so that I'm going to kind of show you here. It's not going to be that easy to see, I don't think. And there's not really that much to look at to speak of. But you can see there's chopped apple in there, and there's slices of green bell pepper, and there's chopped celery. And that's what you're seeing in there. So it all came out very green. Yeah, see that? Very kind of yellow green, the whole thing. It has some paprika, which was, of course, just we keep noticing paprika in these recipes. And it also has some salad dressing on it. So I guess I felt that maybe after I made it, it would have been better to just chill it first before serving it. I think that then the crunch would be refreshing. So I have leftovers. That made quite a bit. I have leftovers and I'm chilling it in the fridge. And so I'm going to try it again and see what I think. But yeah, it wasn't a favorite. That was all we have for today. So we're going to move on to a couple more. We have, I think, six more chapters in the month of August. So I'm going to have to be producing quite a few more films to get through this month, during the month of August for me, because I'd like to keep pace with the months as they come along in the cookbook. And that's because as she's using seasonal produce and talking about seasonal events, I want to be making these at the same time of year as she's speaking of. So thanks for joining me, and happy homemaking.